So, not only new filming location, switching it up, but we're talking about a new topic today, which is books. Obviously, I quite liked books. Getting more into book talk, books on YouTube and Instagram, but definitely have gotten into a lot more fantasy books, like Greek retelling. It's just been a lot of fun. I want to talk about it and share about it. So we're going to talk about ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is, I think, like the gateway into more fantasy books. It has fairies, it has a bit of spice, and by a bit, it's quite spicy. It has, war and adventure and friendships and betrayal and. This is definitely what got me back into like reading. And so this book series comes, so far it's 5 books. I'm not going to go through the plot of the books, more just talking about this series as well as Sara J Mass's other 2 series that she's done, talking about how she set it up, what books I think are good to read along or to read after. And I think I'll do like maybe 3 book videos and we can talk about other books that I really love that aren't fantasy as much. Maybe some decluttering, maybe some reorganizing, because I did have it all like by color, but it has gone out of that. So let's get started with ACOTAR. So the main 3 books where you follow the same character is the first one I've talked about, Court of Mist and Fury, and Court of Wings and Ruin. And then you get a short little novella, which is A Court of Frost and Starlight, which just kind of gives you a little palate cleanser to the crazy amount of pages that you've read in this series. And then we get A Court of Silver Flames, which is, you see one of the side characters gets a lot of pages. Some people don't like this one, but I do. I really liked it. I loved the character Nesta. Got me a bit out of like a slump in my life. I just loved being able to turn off my brain and how Sara J Mass writes. It's such a movie that plays in your head. The adventure is so thrilling and exciting to read about. Like, you're excited for what these characters are doing and you care about what these characters are doing, which doesn't always happen in the books that I've read. So, her other books, the second series I read is the even larger, like, oh my god. So we got the Crescent City series, which when I read this, I was like, I love this more than ACOTAR now. It's more of a modern day setting, lots and lots of characters, which I liked because it just gives like such a broader world. I love the main character Bryce. Hunt was my favorite for her, like, little guy or whatever. And then we got House of Sky and Breath, which I also really enjoyed. This was a no. I think with a lot of people, it just felt like Bryce was a totally different character. It felt like Sara J Mass's writing was just like, I'm gonna sprinkle this in, now this is happening, oh, this is happening. And we start getting these side characters, they get their own chapters, and I hate Ethan, or I used to call him Ithan, I think, but it's Ethan, right? He's awful. Tharian is awful. I don't care about Ariadne. Spoilers if you haven't finished this, but so stop listening for a bit. The battle at the end, I was like, wait, is this happening? Are you sure this is happening now? Like, it felt so rushed and not like her other writing. Like, the battles in this, fantastic. They have like a run up to them and they have stakes, and I don't know. I don't know if I'll continue with the series because I think Bryce and Hunt's story's kind of done, and now it's going to be more side characters, and I couldn't care less. Unless people give good reviews, I don't think I will continue with that. Okay, so that's the reading order that I've read these all in. And now, oh my god, there's so many books for this one, but we'll just start with the first two because there's big debate over how to read these. So it's her Throne of Glass series, and you follow the main character, Selena, and she's a prisoner of war. She has to get out and like perform this game type battle. Yes, to win her freedom and to become the king's champion. So this is the first book, and then this is like the prequel, and it came out, I believe, third in the series. I think you gotta read this first because there's events that are like mentioned in this book, and I think and those events are clearly explained in this book, the prequel, and I just wouldn't have cared as much if I hadn't read the prequel first. I would have been like, why are you mentioning this? This is so random. And I think that this gives insight to her character more, where I would hate her character, well, not hate, but I would dislike how she acts because I wouldn't understand it because of what happened in here. And I think it would be a bit of a whiplash almost to then, like, you're reading along in the series, and then you kind of go into something that's not going on in the timeline and that's happened 5-8 years ago. So that's why I recommend Assassin's Blade over Throne of Glass to read in that order. I would also say to take a break if you're reading through these books before you read these. And again, spoilers. If you haven't read all of them, maybe don't listen to this part. But there's a lot of spoilers, don't just... Bryce goes into A Court of Thorns of Roses world, and so it's a crossover. I thought it was done really well. I know some people thought this whole book she would be in that world. I thought she spent like a good amount of time there. So she's connecting things, and again, spoilers, but Selena goes into the ACOTAR world as well. It's kind of hinted at, we don't totally know, but it seems like it. So there's hints of like how they've all been in each other's worlds, and there's different magic in the worlds seem to overlap. And now I don't know how much, it kind of seemed like she was amping up to like a Marvel's Avengers moment, when all the movies start coming in and timelines make sense, and it's just like this oh my god moment. But I don't know if she's going that way anymore. And so it's kind of like, well, you're just taking the same elements and peppering them into all of your series, and you're not going to like tie it all together. I don't know. And that's why I say maybe to wait a bit to read these books if you read the other ones, because you're like, oh, this sounds kind of familiar. Oh, this is like in that book. Oh, she has as much power as like this person in this book. So it just gets a little repetitive, and I wouldn't mind the repetitiveness. Don't know if that's a word, but I wouldn't mind it repeating if it all came together in the end. But right now it doesn't seem like that. Like she hasn't really, who knows. I guess this book made it seem like it wouldn't. Like that's not gonna happen. The Marvel's Avengers universe, multiverse, all coming together in her books. But I guess we'll have to see, and that's kind of what's exciting. My god, I've got to clean my books. I loved Tower of Dawn. Some people really don't like it, and I've read that because when it came out, it was between the last book and then Empire of Storms. Action-packed book, lots of plot happening in there, and then you kind of get a side quest, so I can see why people maybe didn't like it at the time, but this was one of my favorite. You go to a different land, there's new like ways of life, it's deserty. Oh, it's like witchy, I don't know, it's so good. So I read that, and then this was the last book. I read it over Christmas. It made me cry. It's so good. I definitely want to reread some of these series because the consumerism book talk has installed in me has gotten a little out of hand. So I want to reread some of my books. I want to read some of the books I didn't finish, and then I want to use the library more. But I do love books. So it's, it's the scales or whatever. Books that I recommend reading after is the Shepard King duology. So we have One Dark Window, and then we have Two Twisted Crowns. I think these are better than ACOTAR. Oh, don't hate me. But just this, how the story is, the characters, the magic. It's so fun to read. I've never read anything like it. It's fantastic. I want to reread these again. Beautiful, amazing. And I read these around Christmas too, so it's like nice little memories. But I'm out of words for how amazing these books are. It's so good. And these are more like books that I don't see too many people writing or talking about. There's 3 books that follow the main character. So this is A Promise of Fire. It's like Greek retelling, so lots of Greek myths are in here. And I love it because it's like such fun adventure, magic, evil, good, warlord, lady who we don't know her potential and her magic and her ancestry. The food always made me hungry in these books because they're eating like feta and phyllo pastry and spanakopita and wine and grapes and honey, and it just, ooh, it sounded so good. But again, it's just what I like in fantasy books is good adventure, battles, funny, love interests, and a different world. You know, it's ancient Greek. It's just, it's so amazing. So there's 3 books in this series, and then she came out with, I think, a 4th and a 5th that follow different characters. I haven't read A Curse of Queens yet, but I would love to. I think I will get that in the future. But this One Dark Window, like, please read these after ACOTAR or the Sara J Mass universe, because they'll help you get out of a book slump. Now, I don't know if this is cheating, but another book I would recommend would be Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And why I think it might be cheating is because I'm not done it yet. But it's new magic that I haven't read about, a world that I haven't read about. He's also written a lot of books, so I can be very entertained for a very long time, not run out of material, which is important because, let me tell you, I think I waited 2 years for this. I wasn't the happiest. But anyways, so it's, again, I can't talk about it too much because I'm not very far in it, but it's just the main character, he's funny and he has like golden retriever energy. It's kind of an outlaw, but has, like, he's very honed in his craft. And then there's the Vin, who he meets, and she's, you know, had a really hard life and hasn't been surrounded by the best people, and she's very scared. You know, she's not openly trusting because of like this world that they live in and how she has to get by. I kind of wanted this to be like a little introduction into books and how I like books, and chatting more about consumerism in books. I'm kind of, someone's vacuuming the hall, but talking about how consumerism with like book talk or just TikTok in general, with makeup, like things that I'm interested in, makeup, books, workouts, stuff like that, leaning into it a bit and pulling away to say, okay, what do I really need? What do I need to be spending my money on? And how can I do this a little smarter? You know, some books at libraries, it's going to take a long time to read them. And if you really love the series, I think it's worth buying the book. But, you know, maybe some other books I should have, because they're expensive. Books are so expensive now. Some other books I should have just gotten from the library. Should have just borrowed them, so then I'm not wasting money, especially if it's like the first one. Books are like my favorite thing. I'm getting into gaming a bit too, so maybe we can chat about that. I'm also going to be making a new bookshelf because this just doesn't go, and I'd like something a little more pretty. If you've read any of these books, let me know. Let's chat about them. Should we do more of like a character chat? Or I think if I did a reread of some of these books, like definitely rereading A Court of Thorns and Roses, going through that series again, because I believe I started reading this in 2021 or 2020. Yeah, 2021 was when I started reading these. So it's been a while, and I'd like to get back into that world. But we could do a little book club, and I could read so many chapters, and we could talk about it, and I think that would be really fun too. So let me know what you would think. And if you have any recommendations of other books where just like no one's talking about it, gotta get some people reading, drop those in the comments. And yeah, that's my little book video. Thanks for watching.